Hey everybody, Ben Ferrari, Pilot Studios. Welcome to the Pilot Studios show, episode 4. Having lots of fun, sitting down doing a couple items. I'm trying to keep the show short, 10 to 20 minutes at the most. I know everybody has lives. The last thing you want to do is sit around listening to me talk about comic books. So let's get right to it. Ben Ferrari, Pilot Studios. I worked at Image Comics briefly before Rob Liefeld took me over to Extreme Studios in the mid-90s. And that's kind of where most of the sort of excitement from you all is with those stories. So I'm going to make sure I tell at least a short story here and there on this show. So I was actually thinking about someday doing a comic book, my sort of Extreme Studios autobiography. So I have... a few years ago, I wrote some notes down, so I'm just going to kind of look at those to bring up some quick memories, short stories. This is 30 years ago, and I don't have the best memory, so notes help. So, as I mentioned in another one, I was brought on by Rob after asking him for a studio tour in about 1994. And he put me next door to Extreme Studios at Image Comics, and I met a bunch of nice people over there. And I was stuffing envelopes. It was a great job. Basically answering the mail, and there was a ton back then. And, answering the mail, and it was fun because there'd be regulars, and they would send submissions in to the Image office, and there I was, this 18-year-old, answering this stuff. And, I would basically make photocopies of the submissions, and I'd send them out to the various studios. Top Cow, Extreme, obviously next door. Homage Studios at the time. And maybe it was Wildstorm by then. And so I would do my best due diligence to make sure that copies of these submissions went out to all the studios for people that sent it to the Image Central office. And I would also just put stuff in the mail. There was so much swag. I remember I would get together posters and pins and buttons and stickers and, prints and just random advertisements. And I would stuff envelopes, and I would ship it. And I think some people got really big surprises when they opened these things up. They didn't know what to expect. And that was a lot of fun. At some point during San Diego Con 94, Rob said, "Hey, I'm going to bring you over to Extreme Studios," and I never forget it because he treated everybody to go to Waterworld, that film, the movie with Kevin Costner, and that was a lot of fun. And he may have told me as we were all sitting in the theater. That's a really fun memory. I also remember, I was just, I was in church. I knew him from church, is where I met Liefeld. And I wasn't a drinker then. I wasn't partying, certainly. It gave me a lot of hang-ups, I think, because at one point I walked by a hotel room where I knew, somebody was staying. And there was Sherry Liefeld in there, and I think Dan Panosian, and a big crowd of people. I don't remember the details on who it was. And somebody, basically said, "Come on in, hang out with us," But I saw beer. And I remember I kept walking. I didn't socialize with these people, and that's a regret. Very few regrets with that place, that job, but not sort of getting to know people better. Having this hang up about beer, that was really part of it. I was like, I can't possibly go in there, and I think that tells you a lot about the world I came from. But it's a good memory, no matter what. So majority of my time at Extreme Studios, all of it actually, was working as Matt Hawkins' assistant, helping general advertising for Extreme Studios. He was their promotions guy and PR. He was always doing press releases. But I was also the Maximum Press assistant editor because Matt Hawkins was also, that was his baby, right? Eric Stevenson was the editor-in-chief at Extreme. Maximum Press was, as far as editorially, was Matt Hawkins and myself as an assistant. I would write copy, edit pages just make sure things got in on time. Contact creators and ask them where their things are. Ask for updates. Check colors, check letters. It was absolutely fantastic. And one memory I have is Rob asking me one morning. He was eating grapes. He'd be in early, and he washed a big bowl of grapes, and we're sitting there in sort of a mail room off the side of this complex of offices. And he asked me what I wanted to do, meaning at Extreme Studios. I was in good standing at that point. And I told him, well, I'd love to be an artist. That's what my passion is, but I do like editorial. I told him I wouldn't mind being an editor, because I did enjoy it, the process of keeping track of pages as they come in, approving scripts, sending them out to the artists, collecting the pages as they came in, sending them to inkers, having color guides made, make sure they're colored, send it to letters, etc. So that's a nice memory I have of Rob having that conversation. He asked me what I wanted to do. One more short memory I have, I was in the bullpen, and at night, after hours, after my 9 to 5, after I dropped FedEx off, I would go into the bullpen where all the pencilers and inkers and some letterers and some color guide artists were doing their thing. And I would draw. I would train myself. I would watch what they were doing. I would inking a little bit of backgrounds, very basic sort of messy backgrounds. I could do. Anybody can do that, right? And I did a bunch of that stuff, and I would help Kurt Hathaway letter. So much fun. And there I was one day with a Cedric No-Con page. I must have put the photocopy away. I'm pretty sure I have a photocopy of it. And I had vellum on top of it, and I was basically drawing my own version of his page using his layout, not tracing, but using it to sort of learn what he had done. And Rob came over and he said, I don't remember what the exact comment was, but it's something to the effect of, I'm going to show you something, don't waste it, or I hope you appreciate it, or something like that. And of course I did. And he got the vellum, and he showed me how to give the face some depth and some drama. He showed me how he does shadows underneath the eyes. He accentuated the nose and dropped a shadow underneath it. Small things like that, but it was really appreciated. I had a great time with that. I guess, and then I had a friend named Jeff. This is kind of funny, from church, not a comic book guy, but he knew Rob as well, and he at some point, not long after me, made his way in the studio. How it happened, I couldn't tell you, but he got a job there, and he, not being a comic book guy, became Extreme Color. Extreme Color was the group of, must have been a dozen to 16 or so people over 3 different shifts during the day, evening, and graveyard, would sit at the computers and color based on the color guides that somebody else had come up with. So he was making great money coloring comics, naming the book all the time, and I was a little bit annoyed at the time that this guy who didn't care about comics at all was in theory doing a little bit better than me as far as status goes there. And I remember I noticed something that he had done wrong as far as colors, and he looked at me like I had pooped in his cornflakes. Like, how could you possibly tell me what to do? And I don't know if he ever made the changes. He wasn't a very good colorist, that's a fact. Yeah, just a couple of memories there. I hope you like that. Let's see. A little review. Everybody is talking about this. It's got to be in the 40s right now, right? This is probably issue 1 through 5 or 1 through 6, 1 through 5, and I don't know why. I've avoided it. I don't know why. Nothing against it, no idea. But everybody keeps talking about it. That it's just the greatest thing, and it hasn't died down, And so I finally picked this up, and I'm just a couple issues into it, and it is fantastic. It's really good. The hype is real. The art kind of surprises me. It's very strange and kind of basic sometimes, but then he comes out with things like that are just gorgeous, and the depth and the shadows he's using, really. In some ways, I'm not a big fan of the art, but at other times, I'm really impressed. So, anyway, so far, loving Something is Killing the Children. It deserves all the flowers it's getting, and I'm looking forward to finishing this and carrying on with the series. My last thing I want to talk about is a book of mine called The Carriers, Weaponized Carrier Pigeons and Their New York Adventures. I created this years ago, must be minimum 10 years ago, with a friend that I'd met online named Erica Heflin. She developed my basic ideas for the Carriers and expanded it, created new characters, and so we are the co-creators on the Carriers. We own it. I ran a Kickstarter for it, probably 2019, 2020, probably 2019. And I had success with another series, and I figured and that was a very political series. And I figured all of those, all that success from that first series, I would have all these fans who would come over to the Carriers. Well, that didn't happen, unfortunately. So I was like halfway through the Kickstarter 30-day campaign, and not even halfway on the dollar amount, and I panicked and I pulled the trigger, and I was totally bummed. But a guy named Joshua Starnes at Red 5 Comics saw the campaign, and even though it had not succeeded, he liked what he saw. So we had four or five issues done at that point, and he said, "Do you want to see this in stores? Because I like this." And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." So I signed with Red 5 Comics, and you're looking at issue 1. We did 5 issues with Red 5 Comics. I think it was it during the pandemic? So, oh no, it was post-pandemic, because number 1 got highest Red 5 sales post-pandemic. And so, a little feather in my hat, right? Great people. Joshua Starnes is no longer with Red 5. It's run by Scott Chitwood. Great guy. I've done a couple years now of San Diego Comic-Con with Scott and with another friend of mine, a guy named Alex DeLuca, another creator at Red 5, and then Jim Owsley. 2 great guys. In fact, Jim has a really good Kickstarter on right now, I have to mention, called Agony of Stars. Please go check it out. It's a horror thing. It looks fantastic. It's by another artist that I've worked with named Eaton. And please go check that out as an aside. But back to the Carriers. This cover, there was 2 covers on here. This cover is by Cedric Nocon. And Cedric and I became friends at Extreme Studios. He did a bunch of Supreme stuff. He did a lot of pinups and a lot of different books. He did this for me, and of course I love the art, right? Cedric also then sent me the original. Look at that. He sent me the penciled cover of the Carriers. Look at those amazing backgrounds. This is Fable, Cherry Bomb. She's got little matches for cherry bombs. Gladius, she's got a Roman Roman soldier motif. And then the Dark Dove, sort of a techie Batman style bird. So, really cool, right? I have the original art to my Carriers #1. I also did the print. I love this. This is pre-Red 5. So we have the Pilot Studios logo, and you have an old Carriers logo on there. But I love this. Sold a bunch at conventions around the Bay Area. I believe this was Chuck Obach, fantastic colorist, has done stuff for Liefeld now. Marat Michaels has had him on a couple things. So I just like, doing lots of stuff with that art. I got the pencils, I got the issue #1, I got the print. I also did a foil. It was a chromium print, and I think this one's really cool. Just another cool thing to do with a cool piece of artwork. I have these. If anybody wants one, DM me. We could talk about it. So all of that, and then issue 1, of course, was then collected in Carriers Season 1. And yeah, so, and I believe anyway, so the entire first issue is in there. Let's see, sorry, I'm not prepared for this one. Oh, and then there, of course, is that reprinted cover for Carriers number 1. So, lots of things are done with one piece of art over time. We also, of course, have Volume 2. Both of those are available on red5comics.com. So, we've got a review for Something Killing the Children. We've got some background on the Carriers and that first issue cover by Cedric Nocon. And some short stories, some fun memories from Extreme Studios. Hope you enjoyed the Pilot Studios show, episode 4.